Essentially, company is nothing but a collective of all the individuals, all of us put together, everybody, all of us are here to make sure that you get the support that is required for your own growth, but you need to own that growth, and that is very important. It all matters. And if you make that 1% incremental improvement every single day, the compounding effect of that is very, very massive. So yeah, okay. So we're going to talk about Abhishek has actually put me in spot to talk about this. Let me try and quickly walk you guys through uh, how we approach performance. What is our philosophy around performance at Kissflow? Some of you have joined newly to the organization, and I also don't see a full attendance in G2G today. So I hope people will come back and see the recording later. So some of my first thought is like how we really look at culture, right? So we're really looking at culture as an environment that actually gives us a high performance opportunity for the entire collective that we are, right? And that's a very important thing to do. So we talk a lot about culture, and culture is all about creating the environment which enables individuals to rise high and shine and achieve high performance, right? Meaning we also sort of use the word the collective instead of the company, right? Essentially, company is nothing but the collective of all the individuals, all of us put together, and so the organization is actually nothing but the collective, and as together we make this culture, right? And that is really how we need to look at culture. If somebody asks you like what is this culture that we are talking about, it's really nothing other than providing the environment that basically provides a very high performance culture in terms of work, facilities, how you treat people, how do we compensate, how do you celebrate, how do you give feedback, how do you appraise, how does manager, reporting manager relationship works out. All of this together actually forms that environment and hence pretty much defines the culture, right? And basically, when we also talk about it, you might have seen this diagram before. You also think about we want you to discover the best version of yourself, which is nothing but the intersection of your own passion and your skill and what we need as a company, right? So in a different sense, we also call this like the shared vision. If you look at the Fifth Discipline book from Peter Senge, he talks about the shared vision. And the shared vision is nothing but the need circle intersecting with your passion and skill. And it's important that you have this deep clarity, right? Really, what is your passion, and do you have that skill? And then is that the need that we are actually having in the company? And when all of these three things intersect, you really unleash yourself into the next order. The third thing that you need to remember is we are an outcome-focused organization, and it's not really about tasks, right? And I think this is an important thing to keep in mind. Every task that we work on, you think about what is the outcome that we are achieving. Like for example, we might tick off things and like, okay, I posted 5 social media posts, but that is like getting the activity done. If you're a marketer in social media, you're putting some 5 posts every day is just a task or an activity. That's a tick off in your daily task list. But let's say your goal is to go from let's say 1,000 followers who are following an account to 5,000 followers. Now you need to really correlate how the tasks you are doing as a social media marketer is achieving that outcome. So any task that is not moving the needle towards that end outcome is something that you need to reevaluate. You need to talk to your manager, talk to your department head or whoever it is. Even come and talk to me, talk to Abhishek, talk to other people, talk to your peers, everybody, the team leads, and figure out this constant question of whether your task is basically leading to outcome. And that's a very, very important thing that you need to keep in mind. And this is also directly aligned with our OKR model, right? So we've adopted the OKR model, which is objective and key results model, right? So, and this is also directly maps to that. Then the fourth point that you need to remember is the growth of individuals is owned by themselves and not by the manager and not by the organizations. You are responsible for your own growth. Your manager or the organization is only playing a facilitation role. You cannot make your manager or your organization accountable for it. Of course, when I talk to the managers personally, I will say a different thing, but don't talk to me about that. But individually, I see that every individual needs to own their own growth, because no one else really cares about you as much as what you yourself do, right? And you need to accept the responsibility for your growth. And this is a very important parameter. So at the end of one quarter, at the end of a year, don't blame your manager or the organization that you didn't grow. That growth actually needs to come from you, that initiative, that you are responsible for your own growth. And we are here to provide everything that is required. Your manager, your BU per head, your product owner, team lead, department head, whoever it is, including myself, Abhishek, Susan, everybody, all of us are here to make sure that you get the support that is required for your own growth, but you need to own that growth, and that is very important, right? And then the fifth point we need to understand is that whenever we hire talent, right, we are hiring to raise the bar, right? So the overall bar of the organization, and not to sort of settle down. And the worst would be to pull the bar down, right? So the question that you need to ask is, when you are referring a candidate, or when you are a manager, or you are in the interview panel, are you hiring the person which actually raises the bar? If the team bar is at, let's say, 3.5, this person, does he going to make it to 3.6 or 3.54, right? If this person, we are going to make it to 3.4, then we are actually not hiring and the right person, right? And that's very, very important. And the other thing that you need to remember is, the person that we are interviewing actually had to be better than us. Like if I'm talking to someone, I should really feel, oh, you know what, this guy who comes in, he'll be able to do something which I don't think I know. We should be able to, we should be able to learn something from the person. He brings something to the table, right? So that is very, very important. And also, especially from the new people who are joining, right? Like sometimes we see the people who are very different during the interviews, but then once they are in, we don't see the same person that we interviewed. And there seems to be, I don't know what is that gap. We need to really also figure out, right? So the same person in the interview should be the better person in the company, right? So, and that is very, very important. Then the levers of growth. So one of the few things that I'm going to talk about is, what are the levers for growth? First one is seek clarity. That's a very, very important thing, right? And oftentimes we actually fail in this in a big way, because we really don't have the clarity on what we really want to do, and how it matters to the organization. And this clarity is something that I kind of talk about it in many forums, right? And this is something that's very close to my mind. More than the skill in certain things, I believe the clarity on what we need to do is much, much more important. And once we have the clarity, the skill actually falls in place automatically. Even if we do not have the skills, we can actually hire or acquire that skill. But knowing what needs to be done is actually a much powerful point of view to be in. And that's, you don't underestimate this point of seeking clarity, right? And then, of course, it's one of our core values, and it's again reinforcing it here. Be constantly learning. If you're not learning, you're not growing, and period. And learning is something that I have consistently spoken about, and we are, as an organization, we are investing a lot in growing. We have the programs like OLP, the things like G2G. G2G has become more of a fun because of the remote plus model that is happening, right? But the core intent of G2G is actually collective learning. How do we learn together as a team, as an entire organization? And that's really important. And if you're not learning, you're actually not growing. And you need to really, at the end of every day, you need to think, what did you learn today? And if you don't tick off something in your mind that you learned something, then, and if that pattern keeps repeating, you should be really concerned. So keep this in mind. And then the third one is you have to take the opportunities are not given, right? You sort of take it because here we have some sort of an egalitarian environment. So you can actually take a lot of initiatives and opportunities. And once you take those opportunities, if you deliver, you need to deliver those extraordinary outcomes, right? So this is another point that we need to keep in mind. You don't wait for somebody to come and give you responsibilities. And many times you have to take those opportunities. And
the video is not working, live video.
Oh, okay, Dinesh. Then I will probably stop the live video. So I don't want to upset anyone. I'm using some software called Restream. It's like I tried it.
It's not working. Yeah.
Okay, sure, no problem. So take the third point. I think you need to remember is take opportunities to deliver extraordinary outcomes. So which we talked about it, right? So what I mean by take those opportunities yourself. Don't wait for somebody to give you. And the fourth one is pursue your convictions and not really external validations. Oftentimes, meaning you are doing something because you are confident about it and you have the conviction to do it. And whether somebody likes it or puts a thumbs up and you put a social media post or something like that, it really doesn't matter, right? And we do make it a point that we celebrate all the achievements, but sometimes you might just some things might get overlooked, right? Because we are living in a noisy world and everybody is trying hard to get attention. But while we'll try to see how to also fix that, but don't get too much worried about that external validation. What is very important is your own individual, deep inside, your personal conviction on things. And once you have that personal conviction, it really doesn't matter what others think about it, whether they recognize it or acknowledge it. I think Abhishek, when we were reviewing the slides, we talked about this book, this movie, Rocky movie, the latest one, and he was saying like how much Sylvester was convinced that he had the script for the movie, and he did not want to give the script because people were willing to buy the script, but Sylvester was actually demanding that he needs to be the actor in the movie. And without he acting, he is not selling the script. Meaning, he was borderline broke, and he was actually going to work on some stupid movies to get money because he didn't have money at all. He's sort of dying pretty much, right? Bankrupt. But even in that desperate moment, he did not give up the script and get money. He could have easily done it, but he said, no, I have to be the actor. And that conviction he had, and in fact, we know what is Sylvester's position, right? So he's now the greatest star, and that's really important. And it didn't matter. Anything else didn't matter to him. So he was very deeply convinced about it.
Daddy, we're sleeping in the
Okay, some background noise. And the fifth point I want to talk about is pursue mastery, right? Mastery is not an event, right? Mastery is a journey, and you are in this constant journey towards excellence. and you are not competing with your peer. You're actually competing with your own self, right? And that's really how I look at it, right? Personally, meaning I'm only speaking things which I have conviction about and which I have practiced in my career and which I have gotten success personally. I'm not talking about anything that I'm not able to personally relate to. So you can really take it. Anything that I'm saying here is something that I am truly convinced about because it has happened in my life, in my 20 years of what you call professional career, and hopefully it's worth something. Right? So don't worry about comparison, but pursue mastery as an individual. uh, Benchmark yourself, benchmark against yourselves, your yesterday versus today, and keep going, and that's all matters. And if you make that 1% incremental improvement every single day, the compounding effect of that is very, very massive, right? So you need to really understand that. And finally, it's also important for me to sort of little bit touch about what, as a lot of managers are there, right? So we have a lot of managers in the company who are dealing with individuals. The first thing to remember is if you're a manager or a lead, and if few people are reporting to you, make sure that you give feedback with intent to improve and not to blame, right? Of course, you need to be very careful. 100% of the time, it may not be possible, but again, there is a pursuit of excellence here. Even I could have crossed this line sometime. I'm trying hard not to do that, but every time you do that, you just be cognitive about it, and next time you try to change and then try to provide feedback with an intent to improve and not to blame, right? And that's very important. Second, as managers, we need to provide timely feedback, specific feedback, and most importantly, the relevant feedback, and that is very important, right? And try to provide the feedback. Don't wait till the project is done or something like that, because already it's like patient is dead, right? Don't do like postmortems, right? Do figure out if you can course correct much before the postmortem is some patient is dead, right? So that's very, very important. So course correct as often as possible, as early as possible, be timely, specific, and relevant. Do not dump feedback in one sitting, especially in appraisals. Don't wait for that 1 year period and then on that period you basically give all the feedback. That's not going to help anyone. So feedback has to be provided constantly, every now and then, every time you spot some problem. Feedback need not be formal, it can be informal. You can just go send a chat message, you can just say, pick up the phone and just send a 2-minute message. You send any small email, note, post it, whatever you think. Every small opportunity to give that feedback is really important. And it's best done as drip irrigation because it sinks in deeply well. Otherwise, it just floods and then rains again. So it doesn't help anyone. And feedback is also not telling, but actually coaching and supporting afterwards. So the point here is you've got to sort of walk along with the people sometimes when you're providing feedback, because sometimes people may not be there, been there, done that. And sometimes as managers, you've probably been there, done that. And you need to really know when to, see, we use the word micromanagement, right? But micromanagement is not a bad word, right? You need to understand there are situations you need to micromanage, and there are situations you should not micromanage. And a great manager knows when the difference is and what time you should let the control go and what time you should jump in and take control and just be very, very specific and directive and tell the team to do specific steps, because and that is very important. Knowing the difference as to when to micromanage and when not to micromanage is the key here. And that is the point about coaching and supporting certain times, right? So that is also something that you need to be aware of. And finally, the last point about managers is be aware of the difference between a coach and a father figure, right? And I think we all saw this movie called Coach Carter, right? Sometimes I've seen managers take this father figure approach, right? the father figure approach is you don't want the kids to fall down, break your knee. You are afraid that your kid will be, have scratches and broken bones, and you don't really want to do that. And that approach really doesn't work, even in families, by the way, right? My father personally was just a tough person. So, but at that time it was very, very painful for me. Even sometimes when I think about it, I can relate to it. But personally, I learned a lot from that experience of he pushing me into real world scenarios very, very early in my life, as early as 15 years, 16 years old. And that really made me as a person what it is. But, that is really what I'm talking about here as being a coach, right? And sometimes we also take this approach of we don't want to hurt feelings of the employee. So we sort of say things in a hidden fashion, not an open or a transparent fashion. You don't want to, you're sending mixed signals, and you say, hey, you are doing everything great, blah, blah, blah. But then, after 1 year, you're basically saying, no, you didn't do well. All that is going to really be very, complicating the situation. So it's better to give direct and clear feedback. Something is not working. We need to fix that, right? And be that Coach Carter type thing. And that might be a better way to do deal with feedback, right? And finally, from the performance standpoints, I think some of you might know this. It's just a brush up. We have the quarterly feedback process. It's a developmental program and not an appraisal. So I'll just quickly walk you through this. It's important to make sure that there is clarity in expectation so that we don't waste effort or get stressed out. And at the end of that process, we end up in frowny faces, right? We don't really want to do that. Don't wait even for the quarterly feedback. We added the quarterly feedback process because we felt that people are waiting till the yearly appraisal to give feedback sometimes. So that's why we consciously instituted the quarterly feedback process. But I would even encourage, it is better to give feedback sometimes on event basis, right? Because people will be able to quickly understand it, as long as the way we are saying it is something that people will relate to it. That is very important, right? And we went through what is called as self-deception, and we know the bud meeting. So we know how we can give feedback in a way that people will take it, right? So the other misconception is, see, the entire growth process is owned and initiated by the individuals, right? So again, managers and organization is here to facilitate, and this comes true even for the quarterly feedback. So if the quarterly feedback, if your manager forgets to ask for it, do it, I'll probably fall in this category for a few people, right? So it's important you set up the time with your manager and do this quarterly feedback process as an individual. And this is in your own interest, it's very important that you initiate it and own it and get it done, right? So of course you track your progress from quarter to quarter so that you are in the right direction. So mostly annual appraisals will be like super breezy. If you do, it will be like nothing. It will be a cakewalk if your quarterly feedback process works out really well. So that's pretty straightforward. So, and then the reward system. I think some of you might have heard this from me in the past. The reward for good work is more work, right? So you would have actually seen this. நல்லா வேலை பண்றவங்களுக்கு தான் நிறைய வேலை வரும். Actually, அதுதான் வந்து really the reality of work. So if you're getting more work, that really means that at least in our culture, that really means that you're doing really well. That's really what it means. If you're busy, if you're not busy, and if people are not coming to you and saying, hey, can you do this, can you do that, if that is not happening to you, that's also a signal for you to take a look at if you're really doing good work, right? So the greatest signal for good work is you'll get more responsibilities, and that's a very important thing that you need to remember. We have this philosophy called pay for performance and promote for potential. This is something that I carried forward from my HP days. This is like part of the HP way, the employee handbook. There's a slightly different term we use, like contribution and potential, right? Contribution is how somebody has really contributed in factual terms for achieving a milestone or a goal in the last 1 year, or some company goals or company milestones or team goals or team milestone. That's called contribution, right? And we're sort of calling that as performance. So oftentimes salary revision is linked to your contribution and performance, which means like you are graded in a 5-point scale, and you're also graded individually, and you're also graded in a relative rank, which means that you basically we group people who are of same background, experience, and skill sets, and try to make sure that we relative rank and make sure there is parity, and based on that parity we come up with salary increase, so that everybody is treated fairly. So, and that is the process that we follow for performance and salary. Performance is linked to salary raise, and salary raise is linked to performance and contribution. And that is not necessarily linked to promotion, right? Just because you have contributed extremely well does not automatically entitle you to be promoted. These are two different axes, or like x-axis and y-axis, right? One axis is contribution, another axis is potential. Potential is the possibility of someone taking higher responsibilities, showing the signs of taking greater responsibility, taking additional, expanding the scope of what they can do, and they already show signals and signs. And we also tend to give the promotions for people if they've already sort of performing partially what that role demands already in the current position. It's not like you will be promoted and then you're expected to perform in that position. No, you will be start of showing some work and activity and taking some responsibilities for that future promotion or future role in the current role itself. For us, that will be a signal for us to actually promote people, and that is what we call as potential, right? So it's important that you understand these two aspects. And then the third point is, we don't have a predetermined pace of growth for everyone. So everyone is in their own growth trajectory, because people are different, and everyone can grow in their own pace. So there is nothing like, there is one common growth trajectory that everybody is put in, right? So there is nothing like that. So it's basically you are the master of your own fate, and you can lead your own career, you can chart your own path, as long as you know that 3 circles that I initially drew, right? Your passion, your skill, and the needs to intersect, and that is very important. Most of the time we have passion, but we may not have the skill. Most of the time we might have the passion and the skill, but we may not have the need, and it's important we tick off all the three circles. Okay, and that's about it, I guess. Okay, I think that was useful. It's okay, guys. I think we'll sign off. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend. Have fun, and let's talk to you again next week.